So in today's lecture we are going to discuss about the remaining characteristics of the sensor. So last lecture we continued with the hysteresis. So let me discuss about the hysteresis first. So what is the hysteresis? Hysteresis error is nothing but a deviation of the sensor's output at the specified point of the input signal when it is approached from opposite direction. So it is typically caused because of friction and the structural changes in the material. So let us consider that this is the graph and you are expecting this straight line as an output. So this straight line as a output. But what is happening at a particular point when you start giving the input, your output follows this graph. Your output follows this graph and it reaches to the maximum, and after that it comes back again. Instead of following the same path, instead of following the same line, it will follow this path. It will follow this path. So the difference between these 2 points will give you the hysteresis. So this is nothing but a hysteresis. So this is called as a hysteresis characteristics, and these characteristics are because of change in friction or the structural changes of the material, and that will cause the hysteresis error. So the next characteristics is a non-linearity. Non-linearity, we are talking about the linear specification. That means if the input increases, the output also increases in the same proportion. We will call it as a linearity. But as we have seen in the previous diagram, the straight line is not followed. Instead of that, it follows a non-linearity. It will give you the non-linear transfer function, and that non-linear transfer function will be described by non-linear error. So it will be specified by the sensor whose transfer function may be approximated by a straight line. It is not a exactly line, but it is approximated by a straight line. So you can see this. I'll explain it with the help of the diagram. The nonlinearity is the maximum deviation of L of real transfer function from the approximate straight line. Okay. Now what is that? A user should be aware of that manufacturer often publish the smallest possible number to specify non-linearity. So there are several ways to specify non-linearity. How the line is superimposed on a transfer function. Now let us consider that one way to use the terminal point, that means starting point and end point, we can consider it to determine the output values at a smallest and highest stimulus values. That means starting point will be with a smallest stimulus and highest point will be the with a maximum stimulus that you are giving, and through that you are passing a straight line. Through that you are passing a straight line, and there is another way to get it through the least square error. So least square error also you need to calculate the errors between the 2 points. That means what is the actual and what is the approximated one, and you try to calculate the minimum error, and that least error you can calculate it, and that lines you can show it as a. Now here you can see exactly the first non-linearity, and then we'll see the least error type of concept. Now you can see, I'll show you the diagram. So here it is the actual terminal point. Here it is a start point with a minimum stimulus, and here it is the maximum point. So through this straight line, you are trying to have a linear characteristics, but actually this is the dark line shown over here. This dark line will be the actual error you will be getting. Okay, so what you are supposed to get? You are supposed to get at this stimulus, you are supposed to get this error, but you are getting this much. Okay, so this L1, L2 and L1 and L2, that will give you the errors that are caused. So you have to draw a straight line which will try to, so this is the curvature, and you just try to draw an approximate line which will be very close to this curvature or very close to the non-linear characteristics. So this is how you are trying to put your transfer characteristics, or this is what you are trying to approximate your work, and that will be decided by the non-linearity error. Okay, so this is one method. Now here you are trying to calculate the nearest possible line which will suit your transfer function or suits your actual output. Now the second line will be, here it is the line, here you will be getting with a minimum error, you are trying to calculate the least error, so that there will be a straight line will be drawn, and you will be getting the error delta, plus delta and minus delta. So plus delta and minus delta you are trying to calculate, and this is the line you are trying to find it out. So this line will be the best line which will give you the minimum error, because here it is minus delta and here it is a plus delta. Okay, so minus delta and plus delta, here it is at this moment, at this point you will be getting the error 0. Okay, now the next point is the saturation. Next point is saturation. So saturation is an every sensor is operating within a specified limit. Every sensor is operating within a specified limit, and we know that up to certain point it shows a linear characteristics, or up to certain point it shows whatever we are expecting, or it follows the transfer function, and thereafter it goes into saturation. That means even if you increase the input, output will not change in a same proportion, or output is almost stagnant, and that stagnant portion we'll call it as a saturation. So this is what we are expecting here. So input or output is considered to be linear with respect to input, and thereafter after a certain point output signal no longer will be responsive. That means output remains constant, or and that span is called as a saturation, or the stop end non-linearity, or a saturation. So here it is. So you can see that up to this point it is increasing linearly. Up to this point it is increasing linearly, but thereafter instead of going a straight line, that means output should follow the input, but that is not happening. But output is very slowly responding to the input, and we will call it as a saturation limit. So this is a saturation limit. So this will define the limitation of the sensor. So we need to consider this saturation also. So with we need to define the saturation of that one also. So this is called as the saturation characteristics. So we must understand such kind of spans defined by the manufacturers, so that whether a particular selected sensor will work within our expected application. So if the range is, suppose if you are using a temperature sensor, and if your temperature range is 100, but beyond 100 your sensor is showing a saturation, and your application is expecting that your output should go, or your stimulus should sense the voltage up to 150. So the sensor having the linear span of 100 will not be useful. So you need to select the sensor in such a way that it should be in that span only. So for that purpose this is very important. So this is how you will be getting as we know that how you are going to calculate these parameters. So when you are calculating these parameters with a single experiment, you are not doing this one. With a single experiment, you are not calculating all these parameters. You have to go through the various experiments, number of experiments, so that you can come up with the average value out. So when you perform a particular experiment, and suppose that when you perform the first time, it will show these characteristics, and when you perform it second time with the same sensor under the same working condition, and it shows these characteristics, then such kind of sensors are also not useful. So it should we should consider that whatever may be the output is there, that output should be there, or you should get the output in a particular range only. That means the expected error, that is the delta, that should be minimum and it should be within range. Then and then only you can say that your output is repeatable. Your output is repeatable. That means it is within a specified range only. That means whenever you go for a next output, it doesn't go beyond the specified limits that has been defined by the manufacturer. So this is called as a repeatability. So this repeatability error is caused by the inability of a sensor to represent the same value under the identical conditions. So this error you need to minimize. So and if this error is minimum, we can say that this is the repeatable. It is expressed as the maximum difference between the output reading as determined by two calibrating cycles. So first calibrating cycle, you go for the first setting, and thereafter when the next calibration you need to go for, we have already seen what do you mean by calibration. So when we are going for a calibration, and if the difference between that is there, and if it is lie between the specified range, we will say that it is having a repeatability. So a possible source of repeatability is what causes the repeatability error is thermal noise, built up charges, then material plasticity will change over the period. So this will cause the repeatability error in the sensor. So and this will be given by the in terms of percentage, dr is equal to delta fs into 100. So delta is what, when you run it for a first calibration cycle, so here you will be getting one reading and here you will be getting another reading. So you will be getting this error. This is the difference between the two calibration runs. So that delta divided by full span divided by this full span is nothing but this one. This is the full span. Okay. So this is the full span you will be getting. So whatever may be the delta, it should be minimum, and if it is minimum, we can say that it is a repeatable. So you can say that it should be minimum. So delta upon fs into 100. So that percentage should be minimum. Now the next characteristics is deadband. Next characteristics is deadband. What is deadband? Deadband is nothing but an insensitivity of a sensor in a specified range. Insensitivity means in that range of stimuli, your output is almost zero. There is no change at all in your output. So that is called as a deadband. So this is what I have told you, and this is what the experience is. So here you can see that your input is changing from this end to this end. So this is the stimulus. From negative stimulus to positive stimulus you will be getting, and output is followed. Your output is supposed to follow the linear graph, but after a certain range the output is almost zero. Output is almost zero. So this band is called as deadband. Actually it should vary linearly, but during this span of stimuli, input stimuli, the output response is almost zero, and that span is called as a deadband. Okay. So that should be also defined, that is also defined by various sensor manufacturers. So we should consider what is the deadband. Otherwise, if your characteristics you want to measure or your parameters you want to measure in the specific range and that sensor doesn't support or it has a deadband in that range only, you will never get the output. So you need to consider such kind of parameters also. Now the next characteristics is very important characteristics is resolution. Resolution describes the smallest increment of the stimulus that can be sensed. Smallest increment. Now let us consider that I want to measure a displacement. I'll give you the example of that one. So this is a displacement I want to measure. Okay. Now what is the smallest increment I can measure? I can go from displacement. Obviously, if I use the SI unit, then it will be in terms of meters. Okay, but what is the smallest part that I can measure? The smallest part I can go 1 meter. Below that I can go for a centimeter. Below that I can go for a millimeter. Below that I can go for a micrometer. Okay, so micrometer change, if I check it, that is the smallest increment. That means if the span is of 1 meter, how many results you will get in 1 meter if my span is of or my resolution of 1 micrometer, okay, or 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter is equal to, so you can calculate. So this is, I can get 1,000 steps I can check for 1 millimeter, and similarly I can check more than that for this 1 micrometer. Okay, so this is how I can proceed with, this is the smallest increment stimulus that I can measure, that is called as a resolution. And this resolution plays a very important role in a sensor, because whenever you are requiring the accuracy, accurate control is required for various applications, then as far as electronics engineers are concerned, we should focus on this resolution. What is the smallest increment that we can go for? So the magnitude of the input variation which results in the output small step is specified by the resolution under the specified condition. So what is the smallest increment I can go and which will produce the smallest step at output also. So this smallest change, if I am able to sense it and if my output is changing, then I will say that it is the smallest resolution or it is the resolution of my sensor. So most probably when we talk in terms of digital output, we talk in terms of number of bits that the data word. So when I say that it is a 8-bit data, 8-bit data will give you the information that 2 raised to 8 means you can go up to a maximum from 0 to 255. Okay, that is the maximum range. But if I represent the same information by 16 bits, then I can go from 0 to 64K. 0 to 64K, that means a smallest part I can represent with the help of 64K number of steps. So in case of digital, the data will be informed, or sorry, the resolution will be informed by the number of bits in the data word. So I'll whenever you are talking about the ADC, or when you are talking about the microcontroller, then you talk in terms of 8-bit, 16-bit or 64-bit, 32-bit. So it gives you the smallest resolution that a digital signal can represent. So there are another characteristics that are called as the special properties. So many sensors are developed and they need to define a special characteristics related to that sensor. Now let us consider the example of optical fiber. Let us consider that. When you say that it is an optical fiber sensor, then in that case you need to define a bandwidth. You need to define a bandwidth as a special property for that sensor. So when I say the optical sensor, so that optical sensor need to define the spectral property, the bandwidth, and these bandwidth and spectral properties are the special properties that you need to study, because you are using a spatial sensor, so that special input property you need to identify. That is called as a spatial properties. Then output impedance. Output impedance, we know that whenever you are in a circuit is connected to the input, so your sensor is one device which is connected to the input circuit. So whenever there is a impedance matching, so that will, or that output is either in phase, either is in series with the source or input of the next circuit, or it will be parallel to that circuit, and that affects the overall process of your system. So you need to consider this output impedance also. So the output impedance will be representing it as a Z out. So it may be a complex one. So it may consist, it may be represented in terms of X, or we will simply say it as a impedance as a Z. So Z will represent, it is not a resistance, it is an impedance. So there is a difference between impedance and resistance. Resistance is pure resistance, whereas impedance may consist a inductive part or a capacitive part, so it's a complex one. So R plus JXE or R plus JXL, like type of concepts will be there. So that will give you the total impedance of your circuit. So this will be either in parallel or it will be in series with the circuit. So here you can see that the sensor Z out is in series with the Z in, and it will be in parallel with the interface circuit also. So you can get such kind of connections when you are connecting the sensor. So Z out must be known to you, so that you can calculate the requirement, as we know that the impedance matching is very important as far as the fidelity is concerned, or the next processing is concerned. So this impedance for a maximum power transfer is very important. For that purpose, this Z out will play a very important role. Now next one is the excitation. So excitation is the electrical signal that is needed for active sensor. Now we have already studied the classification as active and passive sensor. Now what is the excitation? That means how much voltage you need to apply to the active sensor. That is also should be known. So either it will be described in terms of voltage and or current. So some sensors are excited by the frequency also. So its stability at a particular point, that should be also known. So whatever may be the parameters are there, such as voltage or external parameters that are used for exciting a particular sensor, that are also, if it is also known, that will be very good. So variation in excitation may alter the transfer function and it will cause the output error. So the stability in the excitation is also again important parameter. Now the most important parameter is environmental condition. So we know that the most important environmental condition is temperature. So whenever the temperature is changing, the sensor materials, they have their own physical characteristics, and these physical characteristics responds to changing environment. Now the temperature is one of the important parameter. When the temperature is changing, so there will be a drift in the output. So these conditions alters the performance of the sensor. So you should know. What will be your external what are your environmental conditions under which you are working or your sensor is supposed to work. So temperature, humidity, and these parameters are actually affecting your workouts. And if the temperature increases and it has certain parameter, that will cause an error in your output. So you'll be requiring temperature compensations in most of the circuits. Then there is another stability is required. It may be a short term or long term. Short term stability and long term stability, as we know that whenever there will be a change or a permanent change will be there, we can adjust the parameter with the help of calibration system and we can come up with that one. So short term will give you that output, and long term will also may create a continuous or permanent change in the property. So that is also possible. So there is another environment you need to consider. So whenever a voltage or excitation you are giving or frequency you are giving, so these parameters are again affected by the temperature, and if your voltage is continuously changing or if your current is continuously changing, this will also affect, the excitation will also affect your output. So the stability is very important. So your environment should be a stable one, but the most important factor is your temperature. Then the next characteristics is reliability. Now we know that when we'll call it as a anything, okay, this particular thing is very reliable. Reliable means when you get a consistent output. When you get a consistent output. When we say that particular now the test is going on, or whatever maybe the cricketer is going on, Rahul Dravid, when it says that when the Rahul Dravid is batting, we say that he is reliable. Why we say he is reliable? Because we know that he is performing consistently. He is performing consistently. So his performance is measured in terms of consistency, and that consistency reflects the reliability. So reliability is an ability of a sensor to perform a required function under stated condition for a stated period. This is what it is, the ability of a sensor to work in a specified condition for a specified period. So each and every system is having its own life. So that is called as the aging factor also. So we are going to see the next parameter also. So these parameters need to be studied, and under that condition, if the system is performing as per our expectation, then we'll say that that particular system or a sensor is a reliable one. So it is expressed in terms of statistical terms as a probability, and that the device will function without any failure over the specified time or the number of uses. So when I say that you can use this a particular bulb, I'll take the example of bulb. Okay, so bulb is a output device. So when you pass the electricity, it will light it. Okay, so that light is given to you, and it is stated that it will work for 1000 hours. Let us consider that it will work for 1000 hours. That means when you pass the current continuously for 1000 hours, actually the number of samples are taken, and these samples are worked under different condition, and they are taken out, and a mean and average time is taken out from, let us say, one bulb work for 10 hours, other bulb work for 1000 hours, third bulb work for 5000 hours, and so many samples are taken, and the average of that one will be considered that under this specified condition for so and so voltage and so temperature, this bulb will work for 1000 hours. So this is what the manufacturer is explaining about the reliability, that its working condition in terms of probability, in terms of hours, in terms of mean time between failure. So it is operated, it will be shown by various parameters. So most of the time you will see the parameter called as a MTBF, mean time between failure. So this will also tell you about this reliability characteristics. Okay, so mean time between failure, that means before the system fails, what is the mean time between failures? So that will be the time span, defined by the manufacturer related to the service reliability. Okay. Now we'll talk about the application characteristics. So we know that whatever may be the sensor you are designing, its weight, overall dimensions are geared up by the application area. So whatever may be the parameters are there, and the design of that sensor depends on what kind of application, what kind of circuitry you are designing, and the dimensions will be decided accordingly. Okay, so you need to consider all the applications, the circuit you are designing. If it is a micro, nano, then in that case you cannot go for a normal sensor. You need to have a micro or nano type of sensor only. So this is how you will be considering these parameters based on applications and based on the space available. Obviously cost will be another factor you need to consider. So this cost you need to consider, but the cost is secondary whenever you are going for a reliability and accuracy type of parameters. So another parameter is called as uncertainty. What is that uncertainty? So it is the error measured and it is expressed in terms of delta. Okay, so we know that everything is uncertain. Uncertainty may be caused by various parameters. Now let us consider the example of our own behavior. Okay, now let us consider that today there is no electricity is available, no power supply is available, and the temperature of the room goes on increasing. What will happen to you? What will happen to you? You cannot predict your behavior. If you start feeling irritating that because of temperature, that is already caused the error in your brain, and whatever your output you are expecting from your brain, and here temperature goes on increasing, and that will cause the error in your behavior. So you cannot behave in the same manner when you work at a room temperature. Okay, when you work at a room temperature. So this uncertainty is there. So your body may not react when you are ill in the same manner when you are healthy. So this uncertainty is there, and that uncertainty and whatever may be the predicted output and what is exact actual output, what is the difference between that is defined as a uncertainty, and that is measured as a error. So this is an systematic error. The error can be compensated by systematic, so you can calibrate it again. So uncertainty is a measurement, may be a very large, and we can measure it by very large parameters changes are there. These parameter changes, because you cannot predict it, so that change or that measurement may be a very large change. So this error is what we unknowingly get, and when we measure it, whereas error we know that this is unknowingly get and we measure it, whereas uncertainty what we think how large that error might be. So you can predict it, and this error prediction you can go for that one. So error is measured and it is expressed as delta, and that is equal to S dash minus S. So it can be compensated to certain degree by correcting the systematic component. So uncertainty you can measure it, it may be very large, and you can go for a calibration. What are the sources? So calibration you can go for measured error, ambient drifts. So these are the sources of uncertainty. If your device is not calibrated, then you can expect uncertainty. If your measured errors are there and you overlook that errors, that will certainly going to cause uncertainty. And ambient drifts, if you don't take care of that one, that is certainly going to create a uncertainty. What is ambient drift? Ambient drifts means temperature, voltage source that is used, the current source you are using, or the frequency that you are applying. If that are going to be changed, this is going to change the overall system. And the last and the important characteristics is dynamic characteristics. So we know that dynamic characteristics means whenever the condition is changing, you need to get a real-time response. A real-time response, I'll call it as a real-time response. So that real-time response, if you plot it, that will give you the dynamic characteristics. So under static conditions means everything is defined. This is fixed, this is fixed, this is fixed. Now the condition is fixed and you start checking it. So obviously your response will be as per your described transfer function, span, calibration, and you are getting the as per expected output. But if your response or the condition is not a static one, it is a dynamic, it is continuously changing. You don't know when the temperature is going to change, when you don't know when the input characteristics are going to change or the environment is going to change. Obviously this is going to have a effect on your sensor, and your sensor will not follow what exactly you are expecting. So there is a difference in fidelity. Fidelity means to produce the output, exact output what you are expected. This is called as a fidelity. So you cannot get the same output as you are expecting. So the reason for it is that both the sensor and its coupling with the source of stimulus cannot always respond instantly. That is again a second condition. That means first, outer conditions you are not aware of that one. Okay. The second condition is that your sensor or the circuit, they may not respond immediately to the stimulus. That is another reason. So you need to consider the time dependent characteristics, that is called as the dynamic characteristics. So your output is followed after certain time when you give the input. So in most of the cases or in many sensors, you need a warm up time. So this warm up time is so that after warm up time only you can start working. So most of the time many devices you need to heat up to certain level, and then only you can go for. So that heat up time will, because of this dynamic characteristics, because the sensor is not in a proper position, so the sensor does not respond instantly. So it may indicate the value of the stimuli which are somewhat different from the real, and the sensor respond with a dynamic error. So that dynamic error, so the difference between static and dynamic error is that the latter one, that is the dynamic error, is always time dependent. That's why I said it as a real time response. What you are getting, it is a time dependent. So that will give you the error of that system. So as I said, a warm up time, most of the time warm up time is required for various electrical powers to the sensors and excitations, so that they can perform within a specified range. The sensor's dynamic characteristics can be studied by evaluating a constant coefficient by linear differential equations. So most of the time the differential equation will talk about the dynamic characteristics of the sensors, and the linear differential equation can be expressed as a zero order, then single order, then higher order differential equation. So zero order equation is shown over here. So this zero order equation is S of t is equal to a plus b s of t. So here you can see that it is a single order. Okay, this is a single order equation, zero order equation. So A is called as an offset and B is called as a static sensitivity. So it will give you the graph like this. So if I say this is the graph. So you can say that this is A, okay, and the slope will tell you about B. The slope will tell you about P. So this is called as a zero order. So this is a generally linear characteristics it gives you. But we know that when you go for a higher orders, then the characteristics may not be a linear, it may be a non-linear characteristics. And if you want to represent the non-linear characteristics, you will be requiring the higher order transfer functions. So you will be requiring, this is the first order equation you are representing, and you can talk in terms of amplitude and you can talk about in terms of phase. So these are the parameters most of the time you need to check for various circuitries, because amplitude, when you go on increasing the frequency, and we know that after certain frequency, cutoff frequency, the amplitude decreases with the frequency. So this frequency response, as well as you try to understand the phase response also. So these responses must be known, and that can be described with such kind of differential equations. So this is the first order differential equation. Here you can see this is the first order differential equation, because the power of differentiation is 1 only. So this is the first order differential equation. Okay, so B1 plus B1 d by s of t dt plus b of s of t is equal to s of t. So this is the response you are getting, and that response may be in terms of amplitude or it may be in terms of phase. So either you so here if it is a voltage, then I can say that d dv by dt, okay, plus b0, here it is, we can consider b0v of t is equal to s of t. I can get the response like this one. So this is what the response you will be getting. Then the second order differential equation, so you will be getting a damped oscillations. Okay, so here you can see that the three types of damping are there. So critically damped is what exactly you are expecting. So here you can see that this is the delay, this is the delay. Okay, here you are expecting the output. The best example is when the capacitor, if you take the capacitor is not charged immediately, it gets charged after certain time. So it can be shown that, so when you start charging the capacitor, after a certain time it will be get fully charged. So this is a critically charged. So RC time constant, and you have all that you have studied in your previous subjects or basic subjects. And after that, here it is again, the best example is given as accelerometer, which will represent a second order differential equation. Now you can see that here it is 2, that's why it is called a second order differential equation. And higher order, you may go for a cubic one, or a fourth or fifth degree also. So that is higher order differential equations. So the responses you are getting, this is a critical response, and below that this is over damped output you are getting, and you can see that it will reach to this value, it can reach to this value after certain time period. Okay, so the highest value will be reached, and under damped is there, it will shoot out. So this will be shown by A, and again come down, again it goes below low peak, below the value, and after certain time it will settle down. So for a critically damped, the time period required will be less. For over damped, it will be less than under damped. Under damped because it is creating an oscillations, and after certain time it gets settled down. So most of the time for a resonant frequency, if you are getting for accelerometer, then in that case you will be getting such kind of characteristics. So how we are going to measure the dynamic characteristics? It will be measured with the help of damping factor, and that damping factor will be given by the ratio of A upon B. So what is A upon B? So A upon B, you can see that this is A, this is measured as A and divided by B. So you will be getting this equation, or B upon C, and so on. You can calculate it. So that will give you the damping factor. So that damping factor you can calculate, and that damping factor will tell you about the dynamic characteristics of the sensor. So this is how we have studied all the parameters related to